This is the Your Money Hour podcast. I am your host, Dakota Grady, and welcome to the show, everybody. Whether you're in South Carolina, California, or anywhere around the world, thank you for joining us. I have a guest today, Miss Ebony Thyme. But before we get started, let me do a little housekeeping here. If you need help with your personal finances, I'm your guy. I know that people are stressed out about high prices at the stores, but you can manage your finances during this time. No matter what season it is, you can get help with personal finances. Contact me today at dakotagrady.com to get resources about how to manage your coins. And if you're NP, that means a nurse practitioner or a nursepreneur who has a business and you need help with accounting and taxes, I got you covered too. Contact me today at dakotagrady.com to get resources about managing your coins in your business. So without further ado, my guest today is Miss Ebony Thyme. She is a locum nurse practitioner, so she travels. She'll give y'all more information about herself, but Ebony, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Dakota.
You're welcome. So tell everyone about who you are and what you do, Ebony.
Okay, guys. So my name is Ebony. I'm a full-time locum tenens nurse practitioner. I'm also a 1099 remote nurse practitioner as well. I teach nurse practitioners how to transition from their staff NP role to independent contracting by being contracted as a business structure for hospitals and organizations like clinical organizations as well.
So how'd you get into that? I mean, like, you're an NP, so obviously you have your master's degree, right? I assume.
Yes, I do. I have my master's degree. But prior to that, I was an RN. I worked in med-surg. I worked in ICU, and I was in school full-time. I was doing both full-time. I was an RN full-time and a school full-time because I just wanted to get it done. And that was that for me. But so after I got it done, I was exhausted because I was full-time working both, right? So what I ended up doing was I ended up doing travel nursing. I remained as an RN for a year after graduating nurse practitioner school because I just was exhausted. And then at that time, I had learned like the beauty of the world. I started traveling in the world. I traveled the world solo as well. And I was just living my life, right? And I admired that lifestyle. And so, but I knew in the back of my head, eventually I'm gonna have to use this degree. So I ended up getting my first staff nurse practitioner job in 2019. And it just wasn't for me. The restrictions that came along with my career, like I just did not enjoy it. And imagine coming from being a travel nurse to now being a staff nurse. It was just staff nurse practitioner. To me, it just didn't make sense for my lifestyle that I wanted for myself. So I ended up pretty much quitting after 4 months. I was a staff nurse practitioner only for 4 months. I ended up quitting and I landed my first job as a locum tenens nurse practitioner, 1099, and I bombed it. I completely bombed being a 1099 nurse practitioner. I did, on the other hand, regain my time, my flexibility, my freedom, but the business side, I sucked at.
So talk about what a locum NP is, please.
Yes. So a locum NP, you could be contracted as a W-2 locum NP, which you will still get paid higher than your staff NP position because you negotiate that. But majority of the companies that will pay you more are 1099 nurse practitioners. So locums pretty much is a way to basically be contracted to a hospital or clinical organization as a business-to-business relationship. With locum jobs, there is the middleman, which is a recruiter who has all of the hospitals that they are associated, or the clinics that they're associated with. And what happens is they will reach out to you and be like, hey, we have a hospital or clinic in need. And that hospital and clinic, it might not be like something long-term. It might just be like you're covering a sick day, or you're covering a maternity leave, or it can be like a 6-month contract, so half a year. Some nurse practitioners stay as a locum for 5 years, 6 years. I know nurse practitioners that don't even live in the country, but come back for contracts only in the summertime. So they will be like, hey, this is the need. Are you available? And if you're available, you negotiate the rate. And you also negotiate what can be covered by the company. So what can be covered by the company, not all companies What can be covered by the company is housing, transportation, car rental, parking, mileage. So those things that actually essentially make you that business can be covered by the locum company. If it's not covered by the locum company and you position yourself the right way, you can write all of that off as a business, right? Because you're operating as a business when you are a 1099 contractor through a business-to-business relationship with a hospital or clinical organization. That's
so it's about relationship, basically. Knowing who is at the level to get you into that place. If you work for a hospital and you like it, I would say you establish a relationship with the person in HR possibly, who has a relationship with the recruiter possibly at a agency. Is that something you would recommend doing?
To go through an agency, you said?
Well, just having, if you're in a hospital, like you said, if you like somebody, if you like the director, you know, working for him or her, is it good to have a relationship with somebody in HR also to connect with the recruiter, possibly?
Right. So it's good to have that relationship with someone in HR in case in the future you want to eliminate that recruiter. Right. With locum contracts, though, they will tell you how long after you can't work with them. So usually, typically, it'll say, we're in a business relationship. This is just the regular terms. It'll be more specific, but we're in the business relationship. We are included in that business relationship between you and the hospital. And if you decide to work with the hospital, either they're going to have to buy you out of that contract with the locum company, or you're going to have to wait till the contract is over and wait possibly a year or two before you decide if you can work with that company. So it depends on the terms and agreements in your contract. But for the most part, I start with building that relationship with the hospital or clinic or whatever, because in the long run, if you're like, you know what, I remember I worked this urgent care position 2 years ago, and they're not going to go out of business, right? They're only growing. They're like, you know, I like the area that I stayed in. I want to have kids in this area. I want to relocate my kids to this area. I want to buy a house in this area. Now I have this relationship. You can email the person in HR and be like, hey, I want to have that business-to-business relationship with you without the employer. But I do want to remain as a 1099 contractor. They will be glad to have you simply because they are not paying your benefits. They are not paying your union dues. They are not paying your health insurance. They are not doing that stuff for you. So you are actually an asset. All they have to do is just pay you your hourly rate. That's it. You sure you don't want any more? That's it, right? Yeah, so that is like one of the best ways to still remain as a 1099 contractor. You could start off, again, it's about who you know. You could start off through that third party. Yes, they're gonna take a cut, right? But essentially, you're gonna be making more than what you were making when you were a staff nurse practitioner.
And you're working on your own terms too.
Own terms. I don't even work more than 6 to 8 months a year because I'm a business structure and I teach educational courses now. So, and I travel a lot. So
talk about the part you said that you suck in terms of the business.
I'm just saying, it's possible. Our career is very lucrative. It is very possible. We are recession proof, so take advantage of it, you know?
Yeah. So talk about that part where you said that you sucked in terms of the business side of your business. Talk about that, because as a nurse, you're not trained to be an entrepreneur. You're trained to be at the bedside serving patients, right?
Absolutely. So when it comes down to me sucking as a business owner, right? Number one, I didn't realize that locums is a business. I didn't know that I was being in contract with a business and this was a business-to-business relationship. So number one, I didn't pay attention to that. I didn't know. And honestly, I can't even be like, oh, the information is out there, because it's not enough information out there. And that is why, like, the pieces do not come together. And this is why I teach this stuff in a comprehensive course, because the pieces come together as it should. So, I wanted to get a job so bad. Like, I wanted to regain my freedom and flexibility so bad that I binded myself into a contract that I didn't know how to operate as a business structure. So again, I regained my flexibility and freedom, but number one mistake that a lot of locums make is they sign that W-9 form as their own person. So I signed the form as Ebony. I did not sign it as LLC, right? That's number one. Number two, I ended up paying $30,000 back in taxes that could have essentially been $0 for me had I had that LLC in place and had I was able to structure myself as under payroll, right? Because that is also a tax deduction. And had I actually did the business expenses that helped me operate as a locum on a day-to-day basis, driving my car, getting gas, getting mileage. Those were all the expenses that I could have wrote off every day that I did not. I was just like, so I feel like the issue is that a lot of nurses have the mentality of make a dollar, spend a dollar, make a dollar, spend a dollar. If I want, and I used to be that way. I used to be that way too. If I wanted to if I wanted to pick up an extra shift because I wanted to buy a bag that costs $1,500, I'll just pick up that extra shift, right? Then you'll be upset because you're a W-2 worker and that no shade, but you'll be upset that that it was eaten away by Uncle Sam, and then you're like wondering why, right? When you are a business structure, I'm telling you, that bag, as long as you can dedicate, if you can approve to IRS that this bag was needed for me to operate as a business, I needed to purchase this bag so I can put my stethoscope in here, my white coat in here, and I can take that back to work. This is my work bag. Then you can write off that bag. Didn't have to pick up an extra shift or nothing because you're already earning more money as a 1099 contractor. Right? So I didn't know none of that stuff. I didn't.
Yeah, that's the benefit. Having a business, you can write off things that you can't do as an employee. And that's the thing I saw on your page. You had you did a side-by-side, I believe, of a lady talking about that. The benefits, IRS basically benefits businesses, not individuals. Because you can write things off, you can deduct things, and that's reality.
It's reality, and I needed to say that because I tell my students this all the time. The government likes that you are doing something to help the government, right? These healthcare organizations are businesses. These are businesses that take care of sick people. We are recession proof. If anybody look at COVID, right? If anybody gets sick, while everybody was in their home or laid off or working remotely, we were in the trenches. We are needed. And I need a lot of healthcare professionals to know that you are needed without jeopardizing your mental health. And I think my issue was that I had jeopardized my mental health. And I think the biggest thing is, the biggest reason why I was able to get away from working so much inside the clinical environment was because my dad, who's an immigrant from Jamaica, he looked at me during COVID and he was just like, if I had $1 million right now, I would tell you to stay home. And he also was just like, Ebony, can you quit your job? Instantly, I realized that was my only source of income. Going to work. That was my only source of income. And I was just like, I need something else. This is not it for me. I want to be able to stay home. I was so scared to get my dad sick, so that was how I was able to really leverage my way out of the healthcare field full time.
So talk about real quick, two things. First, the mental part, how people I guess people talk about this as a nurse. Y'all, like you say, you're in the trenches. You're helping people who are sick, but y'all taking care of yourself, other people, and they may forget to take care of yourselves. Talk about that. And then second thing is, one thing I learned about COVID, I knew already, but to have multiple streams of income, two things.
Right. So, I feel like a lot of nurses, healthcare professionals in general, we are always telling our patients how to better their health, how to check their blood pressure, how to make sure their blood sugar is normal. And then we go home and we sit here and we just eat French fries because that's all we had. Because during that 12-hour shift, we couldn't even stop to get water, the things that we need to hydrate our own system, right? And so for me personally, I got tired of it. Like, I did not want to feel like I'm telling you how to nurture your health. And then I come home, or I take a, like, not me, but I know a lot of nurses that they're like working. They need to go take a cigarette break, right? Because they're stressed out, right? So it's like you're telling people, I like to live, I like to practice what I preach. And so if I'm telling you to drink a lot of water and I'm working a 12-hour shift, I like to have my water bottle and drink a lot of water too, right? And so mentally, when you're not able to do things to take care of yourself, that can be draining when you're telling people to take care of others, right? So for me, it was just a mental thing. Like, everything came into everything, and I was just like, this is not it for me. It's literally going to drive me crazy. I love taking care of patients, but I also equally love taking care of my own health as well. So
That's right. That's right. I understand. And then about the other streams of income, having one source of income is very, very vulnerable. If you were to lose your job and you got the only job, and you have no savings, you have no other streams of income, how vulnerable do you think people are? And why is it important to have more streams of income?
So I feel like you're very vulnerable when you don't have multiple streams of income, because that can affect you physically, mentally, emotionally, especially if you're not able to pay your bills and live the life that you want to live. Though we are a recession-proof career as a healthcare provider or a healthcare professional, we do have to remember that there was a moment where it was like we went from healthcare heroes to you need to be vaccinated or else you're going to get fired effectively in 30 days. We have to remember that part too, right? They need us. And when you have that mindset of y'all need me, right? If you don't believe in vaccines, you have that real estate. You have the courses, you have the ebooks that's probably making you way more money than you staying at the bedside and doing something against your judgment, right? And not only with the vaccines, but just like medication administration or anything that you're like, I want to protect my license. This is not a good place for me to be. You have that ability to leave because you have multiple streams of income.
Right.
And that's what you need to understand. Yeah.
Awesome. So talk about the importance of having a business and having the system set up maybe in bookkeeping. You may have a system set up with email marketing. Like, what are systems do you have set up in your business that can help you to work your business, but also make money while you're sleeping as well?
Right. That's a good question. So when it comes to bookkeeping, that is very, 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 very essential. We are, and I state this all the time, we are already dealing with a lot, right? Probably taking care of sick family members, taking care of our children, bringing our children to school, then going to work, and then taking care of patients and like making sure they don't fall and doing all of this stuff. You do not have time to do bookkeeping. You don't. That's not a part of your job. Like, bookkeeping is something that you should there's a lot of things that you should delegate. Bookkeeping is one of those things that you should delegate. You don't have time to be like, okay, at the end of the month or at the end of the week, let me go through all of the profits and losses that I have, all of my expenses that I've had. How much did I make? Like, you don't have time to go through those bank statements, and you might have multiple bank statements. And as you grow as a business and as you develop more passive income, especially if you have a healthcare LLC and you have, maybe you do IV hydration, and then you do aesthetics, and then you have a med spa, and then you do locums, and that's too many different expenses that you have to be accounted for. And then not only that, you have to make sure that everything is accounted for, because when taxes come and you touch base with your CPA quarterly, you need to know, in case the CPA have any question, what was that 3 months ago, what type of expense was that I needed to do? You also need to know your projected, like how much you're going to be projecting to owe, because there's times where you might not owe a lot, right? Depending on what your bookings say. But it's best to have somebody do your bookkeeping. You can also write it off because somebody is doing that and operating under your business in that structure. Email marketing is also another thing that you should delegate. You should have somebody either do your emails, or you should have some type of automated emails. Just do, see, I tell healthcare professionals that just make the money and do the investments that you need to make. That's it. That's your job. Your job is to make the money and do the investments that you need to make. You don't got time for anything else. Seriously. Right. You need a good CPA in your corner. You need a good bookkeeper in your corner as well.
Right. That's important. I mean, because I tell people sales, marketing, and operations are all important. But without bookkeeping or accounting, you might as well close your business, because you can't know your numbers. You don't know if you're making money, losing money. You don't know if you're profitable. And when it comes to taxes, you can't do your taxes without bookkeeping.
You can't. You can't. You don't want to be struggling with everything. And so that goes back to me paying the $30,000 that year one that I was a locum. I did not know. I didn't even meet quarterly with my CPA that I had. I didn't know about that stuff. So when you're like business write-offs, it's like, it was foreign to me. I was just like, well, I just made money. I guess I could write off, what do you mean, mileage? I could write off mileage because, you know, I can, but I didn't understand the concept at all. I was about making money before this mindset. Now I was about making money, spending money, making money, spending money. Do I want this? I got to work an extra shift or extra 4 hours. I got to do overtime. Now I just don't have to do that no more. Right. You're gonna, and I said this before, you're gonna feel broke. Even when you make more money, you're gonna feel broke because you're gonna put money into your business. You might put money into your business. You know, put yourself on payroll. You might pay yourself a little bit less because most of the profits go into your business. You might have to like do additional business expenses, which is a tax write-off, to like even be able to operate as a business. There's no way around it, right? And that's just you're gonna feel like, damn, I didn't make money. Like, but your business, and you put stuff into your high yield savings, you put stuff into your funds, and you're like, you paid your taxes, you know, you're like, damn, like sometimes, especially when you're just starting, you're not gonna really see that huge profit too until over some time.
Right. All right, so real quick, how'd you find out about being a locum? If it was information out there, how'd you find out about it?
That's a great question. And you know what? Not a lot of people ask me that question. Like, how did I know from the jump, right? So my school at that time, when I was in my last year of school, we did job fairs. And so the you know, different hospitals, clinics, organizations, they will come and they will sit at the table, like, you know, and then you just come and you inquire about their hospital, or you inquire about the clinic or whatever it is. The tables that I was only attracted to were all locum tables. Freedom, flexibility, lifestyle. They still don't teach you. They still didn't teach you the business part. They entice you with the freedom, the flexibility, the lifestyle. And I'm like, ooh, this sounds good. This one's talking about this 5-week vacations a year, but this one's talking about you just work whenever you want to, and then you take off time. Those were the tables that I was attracted to. But every time I was like, okay, yes, I want to apply, they were like, well, you need experience. Like, you need to have experience. And so I was like, okay. So I had reached out to one of my mentors. I look up to her so much. Her name is Sophia. And I actually ended up finding her blog, and I started reading about it. But again, if you find the information, you have to be able to put it all together so it makes sense in your head. So you can have the information, but if it doesn't make sense in your head, you're not going to get it. Because I had the information and still messed up. So, I ended up reaching out to her, and she told me, hey, you want to at least have at least 6 months to a year of experience, because honestly, day 1 or day 2, you're probably on your own, like practicing as a provider on your own. It's happened to me, like I practice sometimes the day of now, but I have experience at what I do. So I was like, okay. I ended up getting a job before that 6 months. I ended up getting a job at 4 months. 4 months as a locum. So that's how I ended up doing things. And like I said, the first year was a shit show. But that's how I was able to teach others how to actually navigate as a business. And as I say to my students and just everybody, I said I could tell you all day where to apply for jobs. Indeed, LinkedIn. I can tell you that part. That is not the part that you should really focus on. The part that you should really focus on is everything you have to do before applying to that job. I did everything after. And that's how I was able to mess things up. You do everything before, you align yourself as a business, you get your LLC, you do everything that you're supposed to do beforehand. Then lastly, you can start negotiating. That's the fun part, negotiating your contracts, knowing what your contracts say, letting the companies know that I am on break from June to September. I don't want to work. That's the fun part. You need to understand the hard part first.
Awesome. So real quick, how can people find out about you on social media, website, and how can they connect with you?
Yeah, sure. So you can find me on Instagram. I have 2 pages. One is for travel inspo. If you are an avid traveler, that's a great page to go to just to find out where I went to and where I'm going and all that stuff. So that is at front page. That's FRONTPAGE_EB. And that's for my travel page. My nursing page with information about how, like just my journey as a locum, the states I work in, and how you can even join my course. I will also give the website as well, is at EBTHE NP. That's EBBTHENP. And also you can check out everything there as far as my state-to-state travels and being a locum and business and stuff like that. When it comes to joining my course and getting into really trying to get to the bag, Wellness Thyme Health. That's wellness, THYME, health.com. And that's where you'll find my course.
Awesome. Ebony, thank you for joining me on the Your Money Hour podcast. And let's stay connected.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.